right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out on this summer night. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if you'd all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The public is hereby advised of the audio and video recording of this meeting for the purpose of rebroadcasting. There was an executive session of the board held at the Farina Center on June 29th, 2017 for the purposes of discussing a personnel matter regarding an administrative employee and contract negotiations with the Methacton Education Association. By way of attendance, Mr. Dorn is not here, and we're trying to get Mr. Phillips on the phone, so hopefully he'll be joining us. And now, in terms of recognition of guests and scheduled speakers, Dr. Zerbe.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening. This evening we have three presentations. One, we have the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance Program, or LERTA. We have with us Township Manager of Lower Providence Township, Mr. Delamater, and Mr. Italia from Mark Consulting, LLC. Mr. Delamater, please.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us the time to make this important presentation. We know that you have a very busy agenda this evening, so we'll keep it brief and to the point. My name is Donald Delamater. I'm the Township Manager with Lower Providence Township. With me tonight is Carmen Italia from Mark Consulting, who assists the Township with economic development efforts. We're here tonight to present the concept of Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance Program, also known as LERTA. You may have heard of that. As outlined in my letter, LERTA is a great economic development tool which helps stimulate redevelopment of long-time vacant properties and thus improves the cash flow of the taxing entities like yourself and Lower Providence. We provided some basic information about LERTA to you, which we will review tonight. Our hope at the end of this presentation is to stimulate your thinking and ultimately get a sense from the school district if there is any interest in pursuing this LERTA request any further. I'd like to now introduce Carmen Italia, who will review first what LERTA is. He'll then review an example of how LERTA works from a financial perspective and conclude with outlining the process needed to implement a LERTA. So with that, I'll now turn over the presentation to Mr. Italia.
Thank you, Don, and good evening. As Don said, I was hired by Lower Providence Township to assist with their economic development efforts. You may wonder what qualifies me to take on this position. I was the former Deputy Director of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation for 7 years, and then President for the next 21 years. Overall, I've been in economic development for over 44 years, and I've worked on hundreds, if not thousands, of economic development projects throughout Montgomery County, which has either retained or created new jobs for the residents of this county. I've always prided myself in doing what's best for the company and the community. Tonight, we're here to ask you to consider implementing an economic development program which will help us with the marketing of certain distressed properties in the township that are truly underperforming and costing the township, the school district, and the residents money. How is it costing you money? These properties have been vacant for at least 10 years and are now in need of great repair. As a result, the property owners have asked that the assessed value of their properties be lowered. And because of this, they're not being utilized at the highest and best use. Thus, they are generating less than the market rate in tax revenues. So, what is LERTA? This program was enacted December 1st, 1977, and amended on July 13th, 1988, with the specific purpose of providing an incentive to local taxing authorities to help with their economic development efforts. LRTA is a relatively simple program in the sense that it enables any two taxing authorities to assist in the development and/or redevelopment of a property by helping to increase or ease the increased assessed value on the developer and/or the company who's either planning to build or renovate an existing property. Unlike a Keystone Opportunity Zone that was enacted several years ago, we do not, with LRTA, give up total taxes for up to a 10-year period. LRTA allows you to continue to collect your base year taxes and only phases in any increased assessed value for up to a 10-year period. The way this is accomplished is as follows. The governing municipality, thus the township, would hold a public hearing to determine the boundaries of the proposed LRTA district. I might note that it doesn't have to be an entire district. It can be a single property or multiple properties. At the same time, the school district and the county can participate in this public hearing to determine what that district is going to be. Once adopted, the school district and the county would then hold their own public hearings in order to enact the said district and the terms of the tax exemption. The entire process can take anywhere from 3 to 5 months to complete. You may be wondering, what if one of the taxing authorities doesn't want to participate? Can it still be enacted? The answer is yes. But you, being the largest taxing entity, if you were to say no to this idea, it makes absolutely no sense for us to pursue this. Many people get concerned over the language that's in LRTA. In the legislation, it says that this must address deteriorated, blighted, or an impoverished area. As I said earlier, I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I ask you, what is blighted about the Commonwealth corporate campus, which is located next to Commonwealth Country Club in Horsham Township? And what is blighted about an 85-acre farm in Lower Salford Township, which is now the home of Almac, a Northern Irish pharmaceutical company who's expanded once and is planning to expand again? The answer is absolutely nothing. Recently, I assisted a young company in Hatfield Township and the North Penn School District, which Mr. Bartle was a part of. And we provided Dr. Zerbe with some numbers on what the effect of a LRTA program would look like. And this, I don't know if does the board have it, Doctor? That's it, yes. As you can see from this example, we proposed the construction of roughly 200,000 square feet of space on a 23-acre site in Hatfield Township. This site was an environmentally contaminated site and had been vacant for well over 35 years. We had one person look at it, and they walked away. We had the second company look at it. They projected to build a 200,000 square foot building, basically at $60 a square foot. The estimated assessed value, the first number was that the current collection of taxes by the school district on this parcel was $4,724. With the construction of the new building at $60 a square foot, using the common level ratios, the estimated assessment of the new facility, the new taxes on this building are $159,309. So what we got the township, the school district, and the county to agree to was a 10-year phased-in phase on the increase in the assessed value. So what it looked like was the first year, you would still get your $4,724. The second year, you would get 10% more of that, or $15,931. And you continue with this until the 11th year, when you will receive the full benefit, the $159,309. The benefit to the taxpayer was the savings of roughly $716,000, but the district's benefit was they collected $828,954. So basically, this gives you a better understanding, I think, of what the program's about, what we're trying to accomplish, and with this enactment of a program like this. And we're hoping that you would consider this. If you're not interested, the township would certainly not want to go through the expense of a public hearing only to have it turned down when it got here. So at this point in time, I'd like to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions for him? Paul, go ahead.
From a curiosity perspective, what is the utilization of the Valley Forge Corporate Center? Do you know what the rental space is being used in those facilities?
Oh, it's diversified. There's warehouse, there's light manufacturing, there's office, there's a veterinary clinic. There are a number of different, it's a mixed use.
It's mixed use, but how much is being used?
A considerable amount. I don't have the exact vacancy
Okay.
rate.
Okay.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mike.
A couple, since I'm assuming that the township has already done some work on this. Is there already a predetermined list of possible distressed properties?
We have two in mind, yes.
Too specific. Accompanied with that, have you been approached by developers who are interested in those two?
Now, that's what this would help us do, is market these properties so that we, as I said, these properties have been vacant for over 10 years and have generated very little activity. So we're trying to enhance that marketing capability by saying, look, we're willing to help you with this. We know you have a lot of work to do with this, with each of these properties, and that there's going to be an increase, a substantial increase in taxes should you build to the maximum lot coverage. And this is what we're trying to do, is entice them to come in and make it a sweeter pot.
Can you tell us what those properties are?
Sure. We're focusing on 950 Rittenhouse Boulevard,
Commodore.
the former Commodore facility,
Microelectronic? Yeah.
and Bud's Bar.
I was going to say, but
Two of the township and the school district's favorites.
where will the birds go? Come on.
Where will the birds go? We'll build them a birdhouse.
As long as the polka dots don't come back, that's all I care.
Just a couple of other follow-up questions. Obviously, we know from the reaction here that which properties are the ones that we may be talking about. Are there any properties, since we're a school district, we covered, two townships, is there any cooperation at all with Worcester, and has anything been identified in Worcester which would fall under the same type of, and have any conversations going on between the LP supervisors and Worcester?
I haven't approached them
Okay.
at this time. But if there's a property that you would be, interested in looking at, I can certainly do that.
Okay. The example that you gave us, the length of 10 years, is that what it is, or is that a negotiated?
That's negotiated. That's the maximum you can get.
Okay.
And when we did just so you know, when we did the Allmac project in Lower Salford, the Souderton School District had concerns about the possibility of needing a new elementary school. So they asked if we would pay full taxes up front in the first 5 years and take the benefit of the 10-year LRTA in the last 5 years. And my client had no problem doing that, and that's what we adopted. In the Hatfield, North Penn, we did a straight 5-year, or a straight 10-year deal. And I just saw something recently where one taxing entity did 10 years and another one did 7. So there is flexibility in the program.
Okay. And obviously, you're going to, no offense here, that you're going to show us an example that worked. Are there any drawbacks to us doing this?
To this school district?
No, yeah, to, any school district who has undergone Alerta in their district.
Now, as I said, Alerta, you're still getting your base year taxes, so you're giving up nothing. Unlike a Keystone Opportunity Zone, which is a total exemption from all
An
taxes.
abatement of it.
You're giving up everything. Why do you want to give away the store?
Okay, thank you.
Mike asked, if you had given a whole bunch of properties, I would have been concerned, because
Oh, no.
I didn't think we had that many, so that was good to hear. And just so I understand this spreadsheet, we don't pay anything until you've been successful? That's how you're paid? Like, you get a part of,
You don't pay me.
that's what I thought, you're just part of
I'm
the
doing
success?
this, for the benefit of the property owners. It's the same, holds true for the township. When I came on board, I said, why should you pay me to give them a benefit? Let them pay me. So that's how I work my deals.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Are there any parameters restricting how many properties you could do this with? And is it done usually strictly by property itself, or is it maybe a strip of properties?
Well, the borough of Norristown and Pottstown have enacted a much larger district. I think Norristown goes from Forest Avenue to the Plymouth Township border, Washington Street to Erie, the entire district, and they're including residential. Phoenixville just revoked their Alerta district because they were getting too many residential properties. So, it's up to you what you want. Like I said, I normally don't come in. Probably the only municipality, I did Norristown's first Alerta 20 years ago, maybe 30, and we did take a larger area because of the blight. And we did the same thing in Royersford Borough. We went from like 5th Avenue to the riverfront, 2 blocks off of Main Street. In Lower Pottsgrove, I did from 422 to the Limerick border to Arm & Hammer Boulevard and developed a site that area. So you can, it's flexible, and you can do whatever you want. Like I said, one property or an area. It's your call.
I have one more question. When I asked about the payment, do the property owners contribute since you're helping them?
It depends on what I negotiate with.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do have so if the board as a whole agrees to go along with, getting more information along this, what's the next step? I know you mentioned a public hearing, but what's the next step that the board can follow along to see how this is going? Is it a joint meeting with?
We could have a joint meeting. Don and I could set it up. If you have a subcommittee, when they did it in North Penn, we met with the Finance Committee, and they listened to everything, listened to our presentations, and then we took it to the full board. So we could work on that.
Okay, thank you.
I think in concept, we agree with it, but we'll want to deliberate with the administration, have them do a little bit more homework and get back to us since they know the specific properties now. Okay?
Sure, and anything you need, if I can help you, please don't
Yeah.
hesitate to contact.
But I think one of the nice qualities of this program is you can kind of run a test run of it on 1 or 2 properties and see how that goes, and if it's successful, then you can expand it out,
Yeah.
as opposed to being forced to take a large net approach. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have Mr. Fretz. He'll be giving the board an update on the summer facilities projects. Mr. Fretz?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. Tonight in front of you see the 17 summer work progress sheets in front of you. The first portion of that will direct you to the Fidavia report, which is the first page. It says the site project Flyway excavating the substantially completed Phase 1 of the stormwater management project, Swale 4, Basin 2 modifications, Mill Road, and the stone parking lot down by the JV baseball field. We still have some punch list items remaining with that, which we're working on. Regarding Phase 2, team's currently working with Worcester Township to verify location of trees for the landscaping buffering prior to a September installation. Moving on to the summer 17 priority work, if you go to your second handout there, you'll see the spreadsheet that we have with everything that has been updated for each of the different categories, the 7 areas, from hardware to administration selected projects. Through our hardware, we've met with the vendor and reviewed the exterior cores. We talked about lock boxes and working with that, and also software to handle the hardware. On that 1.0, you can see where we are with the information with that at this point, with the numbers. Miscellaneous architectural projects. We carried out a architectural RFP with AEM. Architects presented lowest responsible bid. Meetings held with AEM architects actually today. Move forward with Skyview and Arcola school auditorium and second floor egress work on their planning side of things. We also met today with Consolidated Engineering, which will come up a little bit later, but Fidavia is proposing to create a scope of work moving through removing the windows, specific windows, and evaluating the installation so we can work on that bid package with the windows for 2018. Majority of the other architectural items, as you'll see if you look there, you'll see a lot of work's already been completed. In the back of your package, you'll see some photos of some of the work that's ongoing. Miscellaneous MEP, skipping one, roof maintenance and investigation. We've been working with we've been maintaining the roofs as we do every rain and work through that. We're also now working with a contractor or a consultant with the roof management plan, where we're looking at all our roofs and organizing and examining and qualifying those roofs and prioritizing each one in each building so we have a real handle on which ones we want to try to include and work as we work into 2018 and start to develop projects around that information. So there's a lot of information that we're working on with them one. Moving on to the miscellaneous MEP project investigations, again today we met with Consolidated, and they were the lowest responsible bid to carry out the review of some MEP systems. We were going to move forward with them with the Skyview Arcola and the high school MEP installations as we had discussed before. Majority of the other miscellaneous MEP projects items are in the process of being worked on, as you'll see again in your sheets as you go through there. We did work on the relocation of students. We worked on the partitions. We've gotten everyone moved. All the buildings were successfully moved. All the supplies, all the furniture. So everybody's relocated. Of course, we're moving some things around, and we'll continue, I'm sure, to do that as the teachers come back and they see some things that we keep working on taking care of for them. Administration selected projects. You see that the CAF tables were put on hold a while ago. That's still same status, but the scope, we changed the scope and modified that at Skyview or at Skyview, and that painting is completed at this point. We still have a separation wall at Arcola. We're waiting on a permit for that, and doing some electrical MEP jobs where we have permits that before we get started with that. We have a traffic study at the high school that we met and had met with a consultant and principals, et cetera, and talked about that and looking at the traffic around the high school campus, and we'll be doing the same thing at the Arcola campus coming up. Anybody have any questions about anything on any of those sheets or anything I presented thus far?
I'll go first. So, thank you for all this detail. This is great, and it's going to be good seeing the actual cost versus the estimated and how they'll help us going forward as well. So, in the detailed parts of the spreadsheet, so everything that's completed, you're marking back here that they're completed as you finish those off, correct?
Yes.
And so when just so I understand your spreadsheets correctly, so when I look at the relocation and I see the actuals 48,000 and some change, and it looks like everything except one's completed, then that's pretty close to our total cost versus our estimated of the 110,000, right?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Have there been any kind of surprises on these projects in terms of the scope of them being much larger than what you anticipated?
Well, I think when we got to the windows project that we talked about before at Eagleville, I think that was somewhat of an eye-opener, because like everything, anybody does a project, the deeper you dig into it, the more information you get, the larger it gets. We try to hedge that by helping out here too, and I'll give kudos to our people that have stepped up to the table, and we really work with the projects to try to keep things under control. We helped a lot with different parts of the moves to keep our costs down and really pushed to try to keep them on target. So there's always something, I'm just happy that we're on target with our numbers. I look at the end right now and, I see we still have some stuff in front of us yet, but until they're through the balls through the uprights, I don't, but yeah.
No, this report's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Brenda?
Thank you very much, Mr. Fretz. It's great to see all of this getting done, and similar to what Mr. Boardman was saying, it appears that you came in under budget for a lot of things. These are the purchase order amounts, but you probably also had some staff costs that you're not identifying here. Regular staff that you have that have done some of this work. Is that true?
Sure. I mean, we're helping out, like I say, we're helping every day. If we have something to do, we aren't always looking for a contractor to do it. If we can fit it in our schedule in our truck and I have something to move from place to place, we do it. But,
Okay.
I will say that we moved in 2 days, we moved probably 20 loads of material, and they had 3 movers. So we were all working together to keep them on the truck and getting it moving from one place to another, to really keep it going.
Okay, thank you. So when you did the calculations of what your estimates were, did you include some costs for staff in there? Or no, you didn't? Okay. Okay. Well, congratulations. Did a great job with some of these costs.
Thank you. Like I said, we're not over the wire yet. I want to wait till next board report and make sure everything keeps holding, we can keep holding the line.
We have years of reports ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
This is just summer of a long-term project.
So the next thing you see is the progress map of cleaning. You'll see that on the next document. It's the green one. The green areas on your map are the areas that are completed as far as cleaning goes right now. As people are moving and things are still happening, of course, we're going to have to go back and touch up some areas, but you can see pretty well, we're moving pretty well along with that. And lastly, you'll see some of the projects that you guys have authorized for us to get accomplished, and appreciate that. And you're seeing the work here in the pictures, and I think there's a little description with each one of them.
Are there any other questions? Paul?
Yeah, again, also thank you, Mark. From a perspective of, I'm trying to maybe read too much into the AEM report and seeing the estimated costs and the costs that we're actually paying on some of these. So I look at 2.7, which was restricted access to the catwalk, which has a photo of it, I think, or you sent it in the memo, and it's 20% of the estimated cost. Are we seeing a consistent over-evaluation, or is it a fluke that I saw that one?
Well, I want to say, and I think you probably picked a good one, You said, and if you look, there's a picture of 2.7
Yeah.
in the photos, just happens.
Right.
But you see what we did, we put some gates in there and tried to be frugal with how we went about doing things. Now, if we were into a full-blown, if we get to the point where we're in a full-blown change at our COLA later, as we had talked, that would be different, you know, how that all went around and happened. But for right now, we put gates on and locked them up.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm trying, maybe wishfully trying to extrapolate a $100 million proposal and seeing that it's exaggerated from that perspective, but it's too early. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, I'll be a little bit pessimistic for you, because you can go to section 5.0, where it talks about replacing the smoke detectors and wiring, where we thought it was going to be about $25,000 and turned out to be $53,000. So it was double the cost. So I think you're going to find positives and negatives there. I did have a couple quick questions. Getting back to the Fadivia page there, when you say met with roofing consultant, is that the name of the business, or you met with a roofing consultant? Just clarification.
It's Mark Sobek Roofing is the roofing consultant that we had met with, and he provided a scope of work and a contract for that work, which we were moving forward, which was within our budget number.
Okay. And you mentioned the facilities building, Worcester and Woodland thus far. Is Arrowhead, any work planning on being done with that? If I remember the facilities spreadsheet, that they were one of the ones that needed the roof the worst for a complete roof. Do they need any temporary patches this summer to?
We're working on roof leaks every time it rains. So every time it rains, we do our custodians walk the building, we look for spots, and we typically find them. So then we mark them up on a building floor plan map, and then we call the contractor up and come out, and we go after those leaks. So that's how we handle the ongoing maintenance right now. But as I spoke, when Mark gets in here, we're going to be doing a more thorough inspection, which could go up to and include thermal imaging, which is extra cost of their contract. But the basic concept is first that we get everything that we have organized together, that they can do a real nice job on working through and coming up with a real good plan that we can grade these roofs from A's to F's, and that will help us pinpoint whether it's a repair that's really a more substantial repair, whether it's a replacement.
Okay. And the last question was where you mentioned the administration selected projects. I know we had talked about the traffic study for Skyview and Arcola, but the traffic study at the high school is a little new to me. Is there a proposal there that we're thinking, or?
We had come up with that when we had talked about the situations at the high school. We knew we wanted to try to get something out this year. To do a full-blown proposal for the high school actually would include counting traffic and monitoring, and typically like you see out on the highway on how to get to what's going on. We thought it would be prudent to be able to work through it and do an overall study of them evaluating our current practices in conversation with all the principals, the other people that are affiliated with the traffic and the ongoing at the high school. And that's what we did, and from that information, this company, McMahon Engineers, I believe their name is, will try to look at that information and come up with some recommendations, and that way we're kind of hedging it, I would say, before we go out into a full-blown study. And our hopes would be that we'd be saving some dollars in doing that.
Okay, no, that's great to hear. It was unexpected, but from what I've heard from so many of the bus drivers and the parents who are dropping it off and the students who are driving, that this is something that should be looked at. So I'm glad you're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick thing, and maybe I should have brought it up last month. I know you're at the beginning stages of getting some roof consulting. Did anybody talk to the joint operating committee of the technical center? Just because they went months and months over picking roofs, and there's a couple of gentlemen who were very involved in the contracting business, which might be worth looking into who they used and who they didn't, because they really did their homework. So that's just something to consider. I didn't think of it till now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? In terms of, later this year we'll be working on the budget for next year and everything. When Is it towards the end of this year, or will it be into next year before we get a good handle on the major projects for next year?
I think he's referring to the master plan. Do you want to give an update on that?
Yes, so the master plan right now, we have a planned meeting for August the 1st to go through a first pass with Fidavia and talk with Dr. Zerbe, myself, and go through what they plan on presenting as they work towards the end of August. So I believe their intent is to have something in front of the board on the August 28th meeting. I think that's correct.
Yeah, we have a property committee meeting, so we're doing the pre-planning for the property committee meeting early here in August, and then there's a property committee meeting scheduled at the end of August. It's likely, I think the property committee meeting is after the board meeting, so we may not be in front of the board in August, so it likely won't be until September.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted a rough timeline. Thanks. All right. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate this.
Thank you very much.
It's very helpful.
Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is school's transition update. I have a handout here that I want to share with the board. The handout is basically the K-4 enrollment as of July 18th, 2017. With regards to school transition, the three pieces that I wanted to speak to you about this evening were the moves, and Mr. Fretz already reviewed that with you. The second part is where we are with enrollment at the elementary level as a result of the school consolidation. And then the third part, I just want to give you a brief update on where we're at with transportation. So if you look at this chart, you can see that we have a high in average class size at around 24 for grade 3 at Eagleville. So that's where our highest enrollment is, or our highest average class size is currently. And the lowest is also at Eagleville at 18 in grade, I believe it's grade 2. Yes, grade 2. And so what we can see that the average class size across the district for all 4 elementary buildings, for all 5 grades, kindergarten through grade 4, the average class size is 20.58. You will notice that we have class sizes also in kindergarten that range from 22 down to about 19. We have class sizes in first grade that range from a high of 20.25 down to 18.2. In second grade, average class size of 21.5 down to 18. And then for third grade, a high of 24 down to 18.75. And then for fourth grade, a high of 23 and a low of 22.25. Just note that currently we have an enrollment in K through 4 of 1,647 students. And to put that in perspective, the projection estimated that for the 2017-18 school year, we would be at 1,659. So we're a number of students under that original projection. Are there any questions on the information that I provided you here? But please know that I think our building principals, along with Dr. Sosnovic and our other directors, have worked real hard with making sure that we have a good alignment with our practice and policy.
I really appreciate having this. It's very helpful. What is the plan, or what are the thoughts? Because we look at that 22 number in kindergarten at Arrowhead, and like you mentioned, the 24 number at Eagleville as a, yeah. So is there a plan? Because those are close.
Sure. So right now with the Eagleville Grade 3, not all 4 of those sections or classes are at 24. Okay, so there is some wiggle room there to accept a couple more students, and that's where we actually made an adjustment, as Dr. Zerby had mentioned, where originally there were 5 teachers teaching 3rd grade in Eagleville, and then to balance out the numbers relative to a high 2nd grade, we moved one of those over so you could see the 4 and 4 section. So that gives us some latitude as we go through the summer months. If we do pick up a student or 2 in those, we don't think we're going to exceed it, but if we get close, we will obviously see if we can make any other adjustments or decisions at that time.
And that makes sense. What about the kindergarten? That kindergarten?
Sure. So it's the same thing, right? So we're evaluating this every day. So we actually have this report updated on a weekly basis and provided out to our elementary principals, and we're staying in constant contact with them, and also our central registrar, Nina Smith, to give us the most up-to-date information to make adjustments as need be as we see kids come in. I mean, right now we don't have any area of concern, but if need be, we would make the appropriate adjustment to handle and keep within our threshold of class size.
And one other item is, like our practice has always been, if we're reaching that threshold, we may then, as new enrollees come to those particular grades that are approaching the challenge, we can have them start in another school.
Yeah, and that's a good point that I missed. We are telling families at Arrowhead, if they do come in at kindergarten, that there is a possibility that might not be their home school. So we're really upfront with families as they register, and as we move on with the summer months, we will reach out to them once we know where their final placement would be.
Are there any other questions on the information?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So if you're saying that not all of these sections of 3rd grade have 24 students, but the average class size is 24?
No, they do.
They do all?
They all have. So then just on average it would, right? So if you have 4, 24, it would be, so I misspoke.
Okay, I wanted to confirm that number. And I don't know if this is an appropriate direction to give, but I think my inclination would be, if we're looking at possibly adding another teacher and where and how, my inclination would be that we try to target getting kids into their home school at kindergarten as opposed to 3rd grade. So if someone is new to the district in 3rd grade and they don't go to their home school, to me that's, I think, easier than a student starting in kindergarten not going to their home school. Just my 2 cents. And I guess my other question is, do we have any historical data in terms of how many students do we typically pick up in these last couple of months of summer?
I don't have that before me, but it's definitely information we do have available to us through our student information system data. We could run reports based on when students were enrolled in our district, so we could see, on average in the past, couple years, what that looks like in the month of August, let's say.
Any other questions? Paul?
Yeah, Kim actually asked my question, but from a policy perspective, we have K through 2nd grade, we have a class size guideline, right? And then also for 3 and 4, we have a different guideline. So for an aspect, if it comes back in August, and now we've added, let's see, what would you do? 8 more children to Eagleville 3rd grade. Now we're sitting at 26. That requires board direction, or how, from a perspective of decision-making, that we go from, if we have 104 3rd graders at Eagleville, where's the decision point to go from 4 classes to 5 classes?
I think the decision point is also relevant to the timing of when those children arrive. So if we're able to seek, approval from the board in advance of school starting and knowing who's going to be sitting in seats, we'll certainly, come to you with that. But we often don't find ourselves always in that situation. So we've had instances in the past where we were over the self-imposed 22 cap as well as over the board policy cap of 25 in the other grades. We'll need to at least, if a child comes to us, we need to get them into seats within 5 days. So we'll certainly be communicating with the board and the public as part of that process. But our hope is, like in past years, that when we're starting to reach that threshold, like here at Eagleville in grade 3, that our eyes are on that as one more student comes in. We're saying, all right, where else could these children go in one of the other buildings that have, only on average of 18? And those are the things and the challenges that we deal with every year, and I think we've done a really good job of balancing that out, and but certainly keeping the board informed. So it may be a retroactive approval from the board, but also, when it occurs, we'll let you know, and if there's major concerns as part of us going through this process with school consolidation, because it was, a major part of our decision-making process, that, keeping you apprised of those numbers, I think, are really important, and making sure that we get your feedback as members of our community.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. And just, I do not recall, maybe somebody else on the board recalls, but I think when we were evaluating in this in May with available classrooms for the elementary schools, I think that the number that sits in my head was 76 or 77 from that perspective, from an availability perspective. And if I did my math right, we're sitting at 75 right now. So, from a perspective of I guess my point is it really provides some insight to at least for the short-term evaluation of the closure of, or the evaluation of 2 consolidations or 1 school consolidation.
Any other questions? If there's no other questions, I'll move on to the next part of my comments. I just want you to know that transportation-wise, both the PM routes, the special routes, and the non-pub routes will be finished by the end of this week. I've been informed that we remain on target to get the bus bidding process into the hands of the drivers in early August, right around August 8th. And from that point, they'll do their final test runs in preparation for the new school year. I will also say that once that process occurs, we'll be bringing forward, the IU will be here at the next board meeting and presenting an update for us, as well as bringing forward, as we do on an annual basis, the list of routes for your approval. But it's our understanding at this point, in conversations with First Student, with the folks from Bus Boss, as well as with the IU, that we will be through, it's my understanding, Dr. Sedano, at least 3 tests of those routes, or is it more than that?
In totality, once it's said and done, it'll be 3. They were run individually by building. We're currently completing the tiered runs right now, and then once the drivers bid and accept the route, they typically run them themselves. So it'll be a total of 3 times each of these routes will be run throughout this process.
And I just got to, give a great thanks to our transportation friends and First Student. They've really stepped to the plate and helped us all summer long. So I appreciate that. Are there any other questions on the school transition update? If not, that ends the guest speakers for this evening.
Thank you. Now on to the reports. The first one up is the Finance Committee. Mr. Ryan.
This whole section will be pretty easy this evening. The Finance Committee did not meet in the month of July. Our next meeting is August 9th at 6:30.
Easy enough. And now on to the Property Committee. Mr. Dorn is not here, and I know they did not meet, correct? Okay. On to the Education Committee, Ms. Reese.
We did not meet, but we will be meeting on August 7th.
Thank you. And Policy Committee, Ms. Aubrey Larsenes.
The Policy Committee actually met this evening prior to this meeting. I do not have prepared minutes, obviously, but we discussed the code of conduct for students, staff, administrators, and parents as well. So this is something that the Policy Committee does on a regular basis. It is on our agenda for a first reading tonight, and in that first, what is on the agenda right now is going to be updated based on the feedback that the committee provided tonight. Some minor tweaks and changes to language, nothing substantial, and then it will be voted on next month at a second reading.
Okay, thank you. And now on to the Intermediate Unit, Ms. Hackett.
Yes, the intermediate unit met on June 28th, the night after our last board meeting. One of the notable things that was reported was that the non-public department had summer camps at 10 different sites. Some of the topics they covered were jump starts towards senior year in high school, something called My Fund, which is negotiating the college process. They worked on developing applications for the financial aid and applications for colleges. Another topic was girls in the middle grades. And they also reported that non-public school enrollment is a little down in Montgomery County. It's doing well compared to the rest of the state. Our decline was something around 30%, whereas the expectation in the rest of the state was a 45% decline. They are also working on a project on technical services in Pottstown, and they received a $2.1 million grant from the county for secondary transition for students once they've graduated from high school. They don't necessarily have to have disabilities, but they were focused primarily on students with disabilities, and this would ease them into the next stage of life, whether it's work or some further education. Thank you.
Thank you. And now on to the North Montco Technical Center. Who's going to do it?
We also met on June 28th. Busy meeting, typical adding some staff, approving some textbooks, approving the handbook. The dates for next year, for those who are unaware, we pretty much meet the third Monday every month unless there's a holiday and they switch it to the Wednesday. The biggest news and most positive news I have from the meeting, it was just a review of the year, and Methacton had 9 students place in various competitions throughout the school year, and 1 young woman winning twice. So that's a great accomplishment, and they were in a variety of categories. And the Technical Center, for the second year in a row, was the winner of the entire national skills competition in culinary in the restaurant services, which is really incredible because it's across the entire nation. And this gentleman was from Solderton and won a complete scholarship to this culinary institute. So it's really, that school is just incredible, and it's a pleasure, as I always say, to be part of it. And in addition to the restaurant services, North Montco also won 3rd place in technical drafting in the entire nation, which is, it's really a credit to that staff and those students. So that's my report.
Pretty impressive. Now on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Zerbe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attached to the agenda this evening are 2 reports. One, the advisements on personnel, and 2, the Pac-10 2016-17 Spring All-Conference Athletes. On the All-Conference Athletes, you'll notice that there's a little over 48 students that were recognized by the Pioneer Athletic Conference for academic, baseball, lacrosse, citizenship, softball, tennis, and boys track and field as well as girls track and field. So I want to congratulate those young men and women and their accomplishments, and their bringing accolades to themselves, their families, and the school district. The other part that I want to bring to your attention is earlier this afternoon, please notice that on the personnel advisements, I removed the advisement regarding a transfer of a music teacher from the high school to a vacated position, music position at Arcola. And I did that for the simple reason that I wanted to gather additional information and speak with the music department chair. I have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Dr. Sosnovic and Dr. Gattone are going to join me, as well as possibly some other members of the music department, to help us understand the best decision for addressing the current vacancy at Arcola, as well as scheduling challenges at the high school. So with that said, I just want the board to know that we'll be working through that, and that we'll report back at a future board meeting about the status of those decisions once I get more information. And that ends my report.
All right, thank you. And now we have public comment on any of the board action items. Does anybody want to comment on the board action items? John, go ahead.
Good evening. John Andrews, Lower Providence. It's me again, ahead of your votes. A few items. On the list of bills, there's the Bartle firm charges for legal fees for I think the month of May, and reassessment fees. And again, I ask, will those fees come back to the district from Keystone Realty if Methacton is successful in those appeals? There's a bill for $14,000 approximately for homeless transportation by the Norristown School District. Could this be detailed? I'm sure it's a valid expense, but it doesn't say homeless students or homeless children, it just says homeless. So those are on the general fund. On the activity fund, Duff's Supply Company is being paid for a high school water fountain for $3,600 roughly. And I don't understand why that is on the activity fund rather than the general fund. But perhaps it's competition for Aramark's request for $1.25 price on water bottles for the students. And as for the Aramark a la carte prices increases, it's curious that their pay for food service was cut from about $100,000 in last year to $10,000 for the coming year ahead of this increase. If student use of their services has only been at 28%, shouldn't we look at alternatives to Aramark? With regard to the Methacton Coordinating Council audit, you have a bid for $8,000. I think, and maybe that activity has a budget of only $100,000 a year, yet the same audit firm only charges us about twice that amount for an audit of a $100 million school district. So it seems to me like that's something that could be done by the business manager in a day or two. So why do we need to pay an exorbitant amount of money to an outside firm? The fall coach list is about $175,000 with a lot of vacant positions. So if those positions are filled, that amount of money goes up. And I also worry that if the teams don't develop, in other words, we're authorizing all of this money when some of those teams probably haven't had any signups yet, just because of schedules. Or if the teams don't finish their schedules, what happens to those pay amounts? In other words, I'm saying they should be paid if they do the work, but if the work doesn't happen, doesn't make sense to me that we should be paying. In the minutes for the last meeting, another voting item, have the name Dr. Zerby in 5 prominent places, but he was absent. Shouldn't the minutes be fixed to be accurate, as it was Dr. Katona that filled the superintendent chair at that meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay. Get my glasses so I can see what I'm reading. May I have a motion to approve the board meeting minutes of the work session held on June 20th, 2017, the board meeting held on June 27th? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Andrea? Okay, thank you. Now on to the fiscal items. And his very first board meeting. Welcome, Mr. Bricker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item is the list of bills for approval. Is there any questions on them?
I have one small question. Sorry, I might have should have asked before. It takes me about 3 times to go over those list of bills. If I'm correct, we only have like $6,000 in legal fees for the month of May. Are we going to get like hit really hard in June or July? Maybe. It just seems really low unless I missed something.
I'll look into that. Going back to May, still a little bit before me, so I can definitely look into that and see what the prior months were and how they ran out.
I have just a minor question. There is an item to Orbit Software for the transportation project. It's identified as 3 of 6, and it appears twice on the list of bills. And I just wondered if it's just a typo and one of them is 2 of 6 or 4 of 6, or whether it is a duplicate.
I can look into that. I do believe it is a typo. Next item is the treasurer's report. They approved the treasurer's report, which was attached. Any questions on that? Okay. The next item is the home and school budgets. Approve an extension to the due date of the Methacton School District's Home and School Association's budgets from June 30th, 2017, per Board Policy 141 to August 1st, 2017.
Yeah, let me just explain that for a second, if I could. The intent there was in conversations, when Ms. Gorler was working with the Home and School Associations as a result of the school consolidation, they had asked that they be giving some consideration under Policy 141 to have those budgets to the building principals because of all the transition that's occurring within not only the district, but also as a result of those changes with the home and schools. So that item really should have been on the agenda for last month, and then I missed that. But we're going to ask for your approval there. And really what that does under Policy 141 is set a timeline for the home and school associations of each building to meet with their building principal and plan the coming year. So it's not necessarily a fiscal problem per se. It's a procedural way to say, by a certain time each year that something, should occur so that dialogue about the upcoming school year is in place. Are there any other questions related to that?
Next item is the Methacton Coordinating Council audit proposal. To approve the Methacton Coordinating Council audit proposal from Major and Mastro LLC in the amount of $8,000, and the proposal is attached.
Again, I just want to explain that a little bit, because, combining the work session and the voting meeting here, we're trying to make sure everyone's informed. Major Mastro is the district's auditing firm currently, and we had solicited their proposal as it was attached to this agenda for them to conduct an audit of the Methacton Coordinating Council. This is in line with it's been a multi-year process to move the Coordinating Council from an unknown organized entity to one that is now established as a 501c3, and again, under Policy 141, which, by the way, is on the agenda for further discussion by the Policy Committee, does require that an audit of the MCC or what's called an affiliated organization be conducted annually. That policy also does allow for a committee that's spearheaded by the business manager or somebody appointed by the superintendent to also do some of that work as well. I want you to know that I've had a number of conversations with members of the Coordinating Council. And I think that in preparation for Policy 141 discussion, to try to find a way to balance our needs and their needs with ensuring that the handoff of those dollars on an annual basis, from folks with some potentially financial knowledge and some maybe with less, where it's protecting not only those groups but also the district. So if anything would ever happen, they would use the word Methacton and it would be tied into this district. So what I'm suggesting is we believe that an audit of this type, while it may be a little more than what I was hoping to pay for an audit of such, it is the first time that they're getting their books done, and it typically does cost more the first time with an entity like this. So that's the recommendation. We're going to try to work through the policy committee to help maybe come up with an alternative, whereas the district nor the coordinating council are putting out $8,000 on an annual basis, which should be more properly put towards activities for students. So we need to work through that, but in order to get to a place where we have an independent third party review that information and then allow the MCC to move forward with some other mechanism, it will likely need to be done at some point, if not now. So it's our recommendation, as well as the recommendation of the MCC, that we have the audit conducted and that we work with the MCC and the policy committee and the board as a whole to make some appropriate modifications, possibly to 141, to allow for the protections to be in place and flexibility without spending a lot of money. So any questions on that matter?
Yeah, Dave. I just had a question. I believe in the process behind, getting the MCC's books audited, especially, the first time around it's going to cost more. Does it come up briefly in the finance meetings where we mentioned Major and Mastro because we already have a relationship with them, and, could the amount be lower because we already have that relationship? When they came back with the amount of $8,000, did we reach out to other audit firms to get prices?
We did not reach out to other audit firms to get prices.
Okay. I think that, seeing this is another reason why we brought this up in finance, that I believe an RFP should go out for our audit services as a whole, with this included yearly.
Well, you're absolutely right. We had that discussion a number of times with the finance committee, and it's something I've already shared with our new business manager, and so we understand that and certainly going to do that. But we're in a situation where we certainly can get a different, auditor to come do this work. But I think they know the district well enough, and it might be a good starting point for us to get this under our belt and get the MCC moving forward. And while it might be more money than I want to spend, I think, timing is appropriate here, because I think the MCC and their board members are moving at a good pace and developing the organization and doing a good job with that. And we just want to be behind them and support them.
That leads to a follow-up question real quick. Sorry, Kim. What's the timeline? Is the MCC ready to go, and is Major and Mastro have them into their time frame too?
I'm sorry, I don't know the timeline at this point.
I just wanted to clarify where the payment for the audit is coming from. I know that we had talked about it in policy, but I just want to make sure that we're clear that this is not being paid for by Methacton Coordinating Council. Is that correct?
It is not being paid by the coordinating council. It is a recommendation that we expend the $8,000 from the district funds in order to support their efforts, so that we get this third-party review done. I mean, this has been a conversation for 3 years, and it isn't until within the last year that the MCC has really gotten well organized, and I think this is the appropriate time.
Yeah, I just want to follow up a little bit. From an RFP perspective, I would agree with Mike that we need to, I choke on this like Mr. Andrews on the amount, but I understand from the perspective of where we are. In this case, I will be supporting this. However, I do think we should evaluate how we put this RFP out and itemize it separately, and choose if we want to use the services with whoever we go from an audit perspective, because I think the principle of an audit, obviously we're all in favor. The principle of certified CPA audit year after year after year, when we have a competent business manager, is where we can save money on this going forward. So let's get the groundwork set. But at the RFP, from my perspective, should not necessarily include this as a requirement, but maybe an add-on that we choose to use or not with that particular supplier.
That's well said. I've had some of that dialogue. Some of the ideas from the MCC is similar to that, where it may not necessarily have to be done like this every year, but on a rotating basis, and leverage the expertise, the business office, and a committee of other members. So good suggestion. Thank you.
I also just wanted to register my disappointment with the amount that the auditing firm proposed. They do work with us, have worked with us for a number of years, and as was pointed out, this is almost half the cost of auditing the entire school district. It's over 5% of the entire budget of the entities that make up the Methacton Coordinating Council. And it estimates that they will spend 40 hours of work if they're paid at $200 an hour on this, and that does seem to be out of line. I would have hoped that they would have been more generous in their calculations with us, given our long history with them.
The next item is to approve the 2017-2018 a la carte price recommendations from Aramark. Is there any questions on?
I don't have a question about it, but I'm going to jump on my bandwagon for one quick second, because we have one more year left of this contract. I looked through it. I was happy to see the healthy choices on it. The price increases are mostly on the junk food. I know we do have to offer the junk food. I would just ask the board to keep an eye on those kinds of things. For example, a Pop-Tart's $1.30. I assume that's how we make our profit, because obviously a Pop-Tart does not cost $1.30, and it was raised 5 cents. The yogurt was raised 10 cents, which I would assume is the healthier choice. It depends on the yogurt, but just that was the only thing that kind of stuck out to me. So as a board, if we could keep our eyes peeled for the food. And the drinks were increased, but again, it was the not great choices on the drinks, so I'm happy to see milk is still at 80 cents and things that are healthy. So thank you for that, Aramark.
Any other comments on this side? No? Any? Okay.
The next item is the approve the extension to the special education advisory support from the MCIU from Methacton High School for the additional 20 days at a cost of $9,000. This would be retroactive July 1st, 2017.
If you recall, we had a supervisor at the high school leave for another position. We then engaged the IU during the school term, and we felt that as part of that transition into getting support and getting best prepared for the start of the new school year, her services were needed this summer, and we'd like you to retroactively approve that.
The last item is to approve Resolution 17-05, appointing Timothy Bricker as Tax Collection Committee Delegate for Methacton School District. And that's the last item I have.
I think he's the right guy for the job. All right, may I have a motion to approve the list of bills, treasurer's report, home and school budget extended date, due date, Methacton Coordinating Council audit proposal, Aramark à la carte pricing for 2017-18, special education supervisory support services, and tax collector committee delegate appointment for Tim Bricker. Second, any more discussion on the topics? All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Now on to personnel items. Dr. Sosnovic.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, you will see for your approval one administrative payment, 2 resignations professional, 2 resignations classified. We have 1 change of status professional, 2 change of status classified, 3 uncompensated leave professional, 1 uncompensated leave classified, 1 sabbatical, and the addendum, as you see attached, for the supplemental contracts for the fall coaches.
Thank you. Does anybody want to pull out any specific items separately?
I don't want to pull anything out, I just have a really quick question. We are accepting Mr. Shirk's resignation as a special ed teacher. Is he still going to be an assistant football coach?
Yes, he will be.
Okay.
Any more questions?
I had a question about on the coaches list, where there are some vacancies, say for a head coach. Is it the expectation that we will find a head coach in the meantime before school starts, and that we will have additional cost there? Or because in some cases there are assistant coaches who are on the list, even though there's a vacancy for a head coach. So we will be looking for head coaches where there are vacancies, and we will have more names and more money added to the list. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize, but that is correct. We're working with Dr. Spiewak to look at those open vacancies and fill them when appropriate, as this is the fall season coaches, so it's important for us to make sure that someone's in place for those programs as they start. So we're working together with his office right now.
So the advertisements are out, and we're working towards filling those vacancies. Questions?
Yeah, Dr. Zerbe, I don't recall in the past year that we see this actually for the clubs also, from the perspective of it being the similar type of point system. Do we ever see this from a voting perspective when it comes to that, from that perspective? I'm trying to understand why the sports is pulled out, but the rest of it isn't.
If you could, let me go back and understand what that practice has been and why it is indeed separated like that. I don't have that information at the top of my head.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve all the personnel items as presented? Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. Now on to curriculum and programs. Dr. Katona, you're way down there this meeting as opposed right next to me.
I am. You missed me?
Well, I won't say that with the doctors there in the room.
So there are no items for voting this evening. I did, however, with the New Wonder series for K-5, just want to apprise the board of the work that's been going on this summer for English language arts, in particular at that level. Briefly, this summer, all of the grade levels, K through 5, have had an opportunity for Team MIAC time to do some planning, specifically for implementing Wonders. They went through and identified certain copies that might be helpful for them to get the school year started, had opportunity to look through the series a little bit more and ask some questions. They also have been under the direction of Ms. Amici, who is our ELA support teacher. They have been working on their curriculum, and all of the grade levels, except for kindergarten, have met at this point, and kindergarten curriculum work should be coming up in the next couple weeks. At our August Ed Committee meeting, I'll be giving more detail both on the Wonders implementation as well as the second year of Math in Focus. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now on to policy. Dr. Zerbe.
There is one item for first reading, as it was previously reported, and then there are 9 policies on diabetes, surveys, integrated pest management, cellular phones, public records, school organization, school calendar, school day, and maintenance of professional adult student boundaries. That's for your approval this evening.
You want to bring something up, Kim?
I just wanted to point something out, that there's a slight typo. The policy on maintaining professional adult student boundaries is policy 824. We have it listed as 825.
Good catch. Any comments? More comments? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the second reading policies as presented? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Now on to more of Dr. Zerbe.
On the agenda this evening for your approval are trips. Approve the Methacton High School French immersion trip to Paris. The trip would take place in late June or early July after school is out in the summer, no cost to the district. The next item is PSBA voting delegates. Approve the appointment of Brenda Hackett and Michael Ryan as voting delegates to the PSBA Delegate Assembly to be held on October 20th, 2017.
I'd like to thank both Brenda and Mike for doing that. Last year, due to everybody's schedules, we didn't send anybody, so I'm really happy that we're sending 2 this year, so thanks. Any discussion on these? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the French immersion trip to Paris, Nice, and Monaco next June, and the appointment of Brenda Hackett and Mike Ryan as voting delegates to the Delegate Assembly in October? Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. All right, now on to the dates for the board meetings calendars. Starting with item number 3, August 7th is the Education Committee. The 9th of August is the Finance Committee. We're going to have a board work session again on the 15th of August. 22nd will be the board meeting. August 28th is the Property Committee meeting. Any old business? Any new business? Okay, now let's open it up to courtesy of the floor. Anyone? Yeah.
Joe Bickelman from Audubon. I just want to know the roofing consultant. I've been to a lot of meetings, and this is the first I heard that the district has contracted with a roofing consultant. And I just Googled the roofing consultant, this Mark Sorbeck Roofing. He's located in Wilkes-Barre. So how much do we pay pay him because the contract wasn't presented anywhere. I didn't see a contract or know what the cost is. Is Mr. Fretz here? How much do we pay him? There you go, $16,000. $16,000. The board, did the committee even look at this? Were there RFPs? Did it get run by the business manager? Did the Montgomery County business managers all get an email asking for ideas on which roofing consultants to use and why we should use those that other Montgomery County districts used? This is the first I heard about it. It's 16 grand. And I understand there's additional work outside of the scope of the contract that can run up to 16 grand. I didn't hear it discussed anywhere. I didn't hear it discussed in committee. The guys from Wilkes-Barre.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I do want to say we did discuss it briefly in the property committee meeting that we were going to seek out a roofing consultant.
So we got RFPs from various ones?
No, but there was some discussion.
You got to go out and get ideas on how much does it cost. Did other business managers in Montgomery County use reputable firms? And, do your homework. So we got a roofing consultant from Wilkes-Barre. That's where he's coming from. The other thing is the tax bills. I got my tax bill July 13th, July 14th. And the due date for the discount period is extended to September 8th. I have till September 8th rather than August 31st to pay at the discount. And also people paying at the flat amount, they don't have to pay by October 31st, they have to pay by November 8th, and so on. So there are millions of dollars that the district doesn't have at August 31st, people paying by the discount period. There are millions of dollars that the district doesn't have by the end of the flat period, which is October 31st, and so on. And these monies, when invested, earn the district interest earnings. And if you have the business manager do a quick calculation, he'll come up with the amount of money that the district lost in interest earnings because of these bills going out late. I suggest when you schedule the budget meeting to approve the budget to get the taxes out, that you schedule the meeting for maybe June 21st, June 22nd, so that the tax collectors have enough time, enough lead time to get the bills out. Because you probably lost about $8,000 to $10,000 in interest earnings. Okay? Have the business manager do a calculation, look at his receipts from the years gone by, but you lost a lot of money there. And that's just, just some paperwork, just getting it done earlier. So you lost some money there. All right.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Susan Basilick, elementary stringed instrument teacher here in the district, as well as the coordinator of the Methacton Music Department. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I would like to bring you up to date on some music department activities. You see us. You see our band at the football games. You see our general music students in grades K to 4.
Excuse me, please address the board.
Thank you,
not
I'm
the
sorry.
public. Thank you.
Sorry about that. You see us at football games, our band. You've seen our K-4 students and our 7th and 8th grade students participate in Veterans Day assemblies. You see our choruses perform at our area retirement communities. You've seen the String Jamboree, the largest gathering of stringed instrument students in Montgomery County. And you've seen our Celebration of the Arts, in which the music department and the arts department combined to produce a program where we provide the entertainment and display student artwork. And as a result of the Celebration of the Arts, we have been able to offer 8 scholarships to Methacton High School seniors who will be majoring in music education and art education. Great things happen in our classes and our performance venues every day. Everyone is welcome to participate in our programs, and everyone is offered the opportunity to experience music in a way that meets their needs. Our department project for last year, for the 16-17 school year, was to apply for the National Association of Music Merchants Outstanding Communities for Music Education. We completed a 9-question survey, did a lot of self-reflection of the department, a lot of asked various community members, et cetera, for input, et cetera. 3 areas of the survey stick out. One area is the the amount of opportunities that are offered to our students. Here in Methacton, we are able to offer a wide variety of opportunities. As a matter of fact, when I checked off all of the opportunities that we offer here in Methacton, the only opportunity we're not offering is mariachi band. And nobody else in the area is offering mariachi either. Another area that stands out on the survey is the amount of highly qualified staff. I am pleased to say that our 16 music education positions are currently covered by 15 outstanding, highly qualified music educators, all of whom are currently teaching in their field of expertise. As we said before, we support a wide variety of curricular and co-curricular opportunities for our students. Last year, we had 1,479 Methacton students participate in the program, which represents approximately 40% of the total student population, grades 3 through 12. If you want to break it down a little further, when we did our participant numbers for last year, we discovered that 79% of our 3rd and 4th grade participate in some form of band, chorus, and orchestra. Quite an accomplishment for a school district of this size. In other words, music matters to Methacton students. As I said earlier, 15 highly qualified educators, past school boards, have seen to it that we have an adequate level of staffing and, of course, quality educators. Music matters to our school boards. Probably the most exciting thing coming out of our study was that we surveyed the community. We sent out an email survey, received responses from 500 different individuals, all of whom had wonderfully positive things to say about our program. And they weren't all necessarily parents of students who are in our current program. We heard from parents whose students have been in the program in the past. We heard from former students, every one of them saying overwhelmingly positive things about the impact that our music program has had on their families. Clearly, music matters to the Methacton community. On April 3rd, we learned that our program had indeed received the National Association for Music Merchants Best Communities in Music Education Award for 2017. This award, a very prestigious award, was only given to 572 school entities across the United States. I'm not sure if the school board is aware of that. I wanted to make you aware of that because, believe me, we are very, very proud of that. We are now looking forward to the start of a new school year and working together as colleagues to continue to bring quality music to all Methacton students. At this point in time, however, we are short one teacher. I'm sure all of you remember from last month that the school board voted to accept the resignation of Miss Darcy Lockman, general music teacher at Arcola Intermediate School. School starts in 5 weeks, and nothing has been publicly shared about hiring a replacement music teacher. The time to hire an outstanding music educator is growing very short. Many outstanding music educators have already received jobs in other districts, including one of our very recent alumni who was hired last week by the Chambersburg School District. In order for us to maintain and enhance the outstanding classes, ensembles, and other music activities that we have here in Methacton, we must continue to maintain our current level of staffing. Please demonstrate to the community and, most importantly, to our students that music really does matter here in Methacton. On behalf of the music department, our past and present students, and our future students, of course, I strongly urge you to keep our staffing at its current level. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Shuey. This coming school year, I will be teaching string lessons at Eagleville, Woodland, and Worcester. Last year, Audubon was also on my list of schools where I taught. So naturally, yesterday, I was perplexed to see in our list of advisements, I'm now going to read directly from it. Number 4, Joyce McGann, music instructor from Methacton High School/Elementary to Arcola Intermediate School. Last year in my teaching schedule with 4 buildings, I was unable to teach all of the students who were enrolled in our district string program. And so Ms. McGann had
was teaching the remaining 26 lesson groups for which I did not have time in my schedule. Estimating low at 4 students per group, that is 104 children who were able to receive string lessons by Miss McGann, who is a string specialist, because she was allowed to teach in that area. Naturally, this morning, I was relieved to see that that advisement had been removed. However, the vocal music position at Arcola still remains vacant. I second Mrs. Baslick's suggestion that we open that position to be outside of the district to be hired, rather than moving members of our staff into that position. The students in our district at the high school and elementary levels have benefited greatly from Ms. McGann's string instruction in the orchestra at the high school and the elementary school. It certainly warmed my heart at the concerts at Eagleville and Woodland when she was able to move some of her lesson groups around to come to their concerts during the day and in the evening to be able to provide us help. It was wonderful to see their faces light up and see them say, "Miss McGann is here," when their teacher was able to come and see them. So I highly advise you, as one of the people who shares that position with Miss McGann, to allow her to remain in that area of specialty where our department is able to best serve our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Diana Kernop, MEA President. The first thing I would like to say is I had some questions last month, and I was referred to Angela Lynch and to Dr. Zerbe, and I would like to thank Dr. Zerbe for giving me the answers to the questions I had. One, the cost of the Field and Lights project, clarifying the $1.6 million, and how that was going to be, understanding clearly that nothing had been designated either way with it, and also articulating for me the 2.6% raise for the administrators and when it would take place. And I appreciate the candor that I was given in those responses. I'd also like to thank Dr. Zerbe right now for pulling back the advisement on the music transfer at this point to get more information. I know that there'll be a meeting held tomorrow. I would ask if the board has taken action to eliminate a music position in the high school yet, because, okay. All right, so that would be my positive things and my questions I want to ask. As I was listening to the board meeting, and the question came up about the low legal fees in the months that we, most recently. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking that one of the reasons that we probably are having low legal fees right now is we have not bargained since June 13th. The contract, we did start bargaining in January. I'm not laying blame on either side, but we haven't bargained since June 13th. The contract expired June 30th. You do know that we've taken a strike vote. Yet, I'm speaking to you. All of these, many of our members are here tonight in a very positive, peaceful way to say they are looking to see that both sides sit down and negotiate a settlement that will be fair to the members of MEA. We do have a session scheduled on next Monday, the 31st of July, and hopefully both sides will come to the table with more dates. I know that on my side, we have been sending around calendars to try to see when people will be free so that we can keep that process moving forward. But MEA is here to say that we do want to bargain with you. We want to bargain with you in good faith, and we do want to get this settled. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? John?
John Andrews, Lower Providence. Mr. Bickelman had spoken to the tax bill that he received. I also received one that was dated July 7th. And when I go to the web page under the business office, under real estate taxes, it says the 60-day discount period ends on August 31, yet the tax bill says it ends on September 8th. I think that conflict should be resolved. Also, the website, Methacton website, says that the bills are mailed by July 1. The tax collector told me that the bills were mailed on either July 7th or July 8th. Again, that's a conflict between actually what happened and the website. I would think that there should be coordination among the tax collectors and the business office. And with regard to the negotiations with the MEA, for instance, I think the public, there's a lot of confidentiality in those negotiations, but I think the public deserves an understanding of how many directors are associated with those negotiations. Is it the whole board? Is it one director or whatever? The contract that the 4-year contract for the period ending on June 30th was pretty much handled in informal discussion by one director, and there were people that were rightly unhappy with that. I think for the amount of interest in a good education, we should have more directors stepping up to the plate than one to handle such sensitive negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second. All those in favor? All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Appreciate it. Have a good night.